The South China Sea is a powder keg, a region where simmering tensions threaten to ignite at any moment. Headlines of near misses, dangerous encounters, and open confrontations dominate global news cycles, capturing the world's attention and raising alarm. Just last week, a Chinese Coast Guard vessel fired a powerful water cannon at a Philippine supply ship, injuring several sailors and forcing the mission to the BRP Sierra Madre outpost to a halt. The attack left the crew shaken and underscored the growing risks faced by those operating in these contested waters. These incidents are now almost routine. Philippine patrols weaving between Chinese destroyers, and local fishermen being chased from their own traditional fishing grounds by swarms of Chinese militia boats. The sense of danger is constant, and the pressure on the Philippines is relentless. Each clash ratchets up the tension, threatening not just regional peace, but the stability of global trade, as trillions of dollars in commerce pass through these vital shipping lanes every year. The world's economy is deeply intertwined with the fate of these waters. The world watches anxiously as statements from the US, Japan, and other concerned nations call for calm and restraint. Yet China continues to press its sweeping territorial claims, openly ignoring international rulings and diplomatic protests. The Philippines, outmatched at sea and facing overwhelming force, is confronted with a stark choice: either yield ground and risk losing sovereignty, or push back and face the consequences of escalation. Now, a new American strategy is emerging, with increased military presence and joint drills aiming to tip the balance and deter further aggression. The U.S. is signaling its commitment to regional allies and to upholding freedom of navigation. Washington's message is clear: the era of passive observation is over. The United States is prepared to act, and its resolve is being tested in real time. The stakes are global, and the next move could reshape not only the region's future, but the balance of power across the world. The world holds its breath as the South China Sea edges ever closer to the brink, with the outcome uncertain and the risks higher than ever before. In Washington, Senator Marco Rubio is leading a push to transform the Philippines into a fortress against Chinese aggression. His plan: flood the Philippines with advanced American weapons, shore-based anti-ship missiles, surveillance drones, radar, and air defense systems. The goal is to create a no-go zone for Chinese forces, making any attack prohibitively costly. Massive upgrades to Philippine bases are underway, turning them into launch pads for rapid joint operations. This isn't just about hardware. It's about restoring military balance and sending Beijing a message: any attack will meet a swift, powerful response. Supporters argue that only hard power can deter China's expansionism. The U.S. is not seeking war, but aiming to prevent one by making the risks for China unmistakable. The Philippines is being armed not to provoke, but to defend its sovereignty and regional stability. China's strategy in the South China Sea revolves around what experts call the gray zone, a shadowy area between peace and outright war. These are actions that fall short of open conflict, but steadily and relentlessly erode its neighbors' control over their own waters and resources. Instead of sending in Navy warships, China often deploys its Coast Guard and a shadowy maritime militia. Civilian-looking vessels that are actually equipped with military training, reinforced hulls, and sometimes even hidden weaponry. These forces swarm around reefs, block access to contested areas, and intimidate rival claimants, all while maintaining plausible deniability and avoiding direct military confrontation. The China Coast Guard's massive ships, armed with water cannons and reinforced bows, regularly harass Philippine vessels, sometimes damaging them or forcing them to turn back. The maritime militia, disguised as ordinary fishing boats, form floating blockades, gather intelligence, and sometimes even assist in construction or surveillance. This legal and tactical ambiguity makes it extremely difficult for the Philippines and its allies to respond forcefully or to build a clear case for international intervention. China's so-called salami-slicing approach lets it seize territory bit by bit, slowly changing the facts on the ground without provoking a major crisis. By staying below the threshold of open warfare, China avoids clear triggers for U.S. intervention, making it harder for outside powers to justify a strong response. The daily grind of these tactics wears down Philippine resolve, undermines local livelihoods, and chips away at the country's sovereignty over time. Senator Rubio's plan aims to give the Philippines the tools, resources, and international support it needs to fight back in this shadowy, hard-to-define conflict. The ultimate goal: to counter China's gray zone tactics with real deterrence, restoring balance and upholding international law in the region. For Filipino sailors, the South China Sea is a daily gauntlet of danger, where every sunrise brings new uncertainty. The vast blue waters may look calm, but beneath the surface, tension simmers constantly. Supply missions to outposts like 2nd Thomas Shoal are met by massive Chinese Coast Guard ships, sirens blaring, water cannons ready. These confrontations are not rare, they are routine, and each approach is shadowed by the threat of escalation. A single blast can shatter windows, injure crew, and force a retreat. These are not accidents, but calculated intimidation. The damage is both physical and psychological, leaving scars that last long after the water dries. Chinese ships routinely swerve into the paths of smaller Philippine vessels, forcing last-second evasions to avoid disaster. Each maneuver is a gamble, with lives hanging in the balance and the risk of catastrophe ever present. Each encounter is a test of nerves, with Filipino crews outgunned and outnumbered, but determined to assert their rights. Their resolve is unwavering, even as the odds seem stacked against them. The psychological toll is immense. Every patrol could end in violence. Fatigue and anxiety are constant companions, yet the sailors press on, driven by duty and a sense of national pride. These real-life confrontations drive the urgency behind U.S. military aid. The stakes are high, and international support is seen as a lifeline in an increasingly volatile region. The aim: give Filipino sailors the means to defend themselves and shift the balance at sea. Training with new technology and equipment is vital, offering hope for a safer future. Courage alone isn't enough. Technology and firepower are now essential. Modern radar, upgraded weaponry, and advanced systems are becoming the new shields for these sailors. The front lines of the South China Sea demand more than bravery. They demand real support. Only with unity, innovation, and international backing can Filipino sailors hope to protect their waters and their future. The 1951 U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty is now front and center. For years, its application to the South China Sea was murky. Would a water cannon attack count as an armed attack? Washington has now clarified any attack on Philippine public vessels or forces in the South China Sea will trigger the treaty. This removes ambiguity and puts China on notice. Aggression could mean U.S. intervention. The new military aid is designed to make this promise credible: shore-based missiles, advanced radars, and joint exercises. The Philippines can now mount its own defense, buying time for U.S. forces to respond. Joint drills like Balikatan are bigger and more complex, ensuring seamless cooperation in a crisis. American troops and equipment rotate through upgraded bases, making the alliance real and ready. The treaty is no longer just words. It's backed by firepower and a clear red line. The U.S.-Philippines partnership is now a living deterrent. U.S. weapons and funding promise the Philippines real security for the first time in decades. Advanced missiles and surveillance tech could finally level the playing field, protecting fishermen and vital resources. Supporters see this as a path to sovereignty and prosperity, not provocation. But the risks are real. By hosting U.S. forces and arms, the Philippines becomes a front line in the U.S.-China rivalry. Critics warn that upgraded bases could be the first targets in a conflict, and that the region could spiral into an arms race. China is unlikely to stand by, raising the risk of escalation. Instead of stability, the region could become even more volatile. The promise of security comes with the peril of becoming a battlefield. Not all Filipinos welcome deeper U.S. ties. Memories of colonial rule and fears of lost autonomy fuel debate in Manila's cafes and classrooms. Critics argue that relying on Washington risks trading one form of dominance for another, sacrificing independent foreign policy. Some urge a balanced approach, good relations with both the U.S. and China, to avoid becoming a pawn in great power rivalry. ASEAN neighbors worry Manila's pivot could fracture regional unity and destabilize Southeast Asia. Domestically, leaders risk being branded as U.S. puppets, making the alliance politically fragile. Future governments could reverse course, adding uncertainty to the strategy's sustainability. The alliance is powerful, but its foundation is complex and sometimes fragile. The debate over arming the Philippines is fierce. Supporters believe peace comes through strength. Only credible force can deter China's expansion. They argue that a well-armed Philippines will actually reduce the risk of war by making aggression too costly. Critics warn the opposite. More weapons mean more risk, fueling an arms race and making conflict more likely. They fear the Philippines will lose independence, locked into America's orbit and forced to choose sides. Diplomacy and regional cooperation, they argue, are better paths to long-term security. The U.S. strategy could close off diplomatic options and entrench confrontation. The stakes: stability or a new era of dangerous escalation. As of October 2025, the South China Sea stands at a crossroads. The U.S. is betting that arming the Philippines will deter China and stabilize the region. For Manila, it's a chance to defend its rights after years of intimidation. If successful, the strategy could force disputes into diplomacy, not conflict. But every action has a reaction. China may escalate, and the region could become even more dangerous. The Philippines risks becoming a permanent front line in a great power struggle. The world watches as decisions in Washington, Beijing, and Manila shape the future. Will this strategy keep the peace or push the region closer to war? The answer is still unwritten.